Cuprite podcast episode 2.
Yeah.
So, hi.
We're back.
We're back. Trying this thing again. Let's see how it goes. Episode 2 goes. So, how are you today?
Good. A lot going on, but good.
Yeah, a lot
What about
going
you?
on. Yeah, stressful. Not really in the mood for doing this, interestingly, but we've committed to it,
Yeah.
and I think it's a good thing to give it a try and kind of stick to it. But it's funny when when you've said you're going to do something and then your body and your brain are just going, oh, I just want to kind of relax and sleep and eat food and do other things. But
Yeah.
it's interesting to kind of have some discipline and see where this goes and do it. So yeah. So I guess the plan for today's episode is we're going to talk a little bit about you. Let's get to know Jojo. So yeah, so I don't know what when you get to how do you like to introduce yourself and talk about yourself when you talk about who's Jojo? Who are you?
Oh God. Good question. I don't know how I would explain myself. Talk about myself. I do loads of things. I think I'm just a broad-minded person that is interested in a lot of things. Likes to do many different things at once. Sometimes not that good for myself. But yeah, I think mainly what I'm realizing more and more, I am a creative person. I used to think that I was very much like this admin person that has to, or follows a lot, likes to follow a lot of rules, or like in terms of like.
Well, you are a very organised and structured person in general in life. Like you organise the house.
And I love that. And I love that I can do that. But I'm realizing, and I always thought I'm just not a creative mind. That's why I also kind of went, in my opinion, producing is not as, or used to be not as creative.
Where
But
do you
funny
think
enough, it's
that?
not.
Where do you think that comes from? That thinking that you would not consider yourself a creative person, or that you didn't previously consider yourself a creative person. Where do you think that kind of stems from?
I don't know. I think a lot of the things that, not that I didn't think I was creative enough, but more like that thing of creativity doesn't make money. And that for me was like one of those things of like, but I have to make money, I have to survive and all that thing. And I, a lot of times been told or come across people who just don't see the art as making a lot of money. And but funny enough, when going into the industry, in the film industry, there can be a lot of money.
Sure.
So it's like it kind of found for me that middle ground in a way. Well, not that middle ground, but like through it I realized, okay, I could make money from it, but I can also be creative in it.
What is creativity for you? What does it mean to be creative for you?
I think it's to make, well, I guess something that you feel passionate about, like you as your own person feeling passionate about creating something new for yourself. And I think creativity in that sense to me is more like what you call creativity in society, like painting, graphics, like all these things, and creating films, writing.
But what does it mean specifically for you? So obviously last week we talked a little bit about your background in dance and how you found your way then into film. I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into that and maybe let people who don't know you on that level kind of get an insight into that. And then I think what I mean with my question is then when do you feel that you're being the most creative? But let's circle back to that. So let's give people a little bit of a background. So you were mentioning before, you started dancing when you were 14?
Yes, 14.
And because you saw your sisters dancing, you're
Yeah.
the youngest of 4,
Yeah.
so you saw them dancing. So tell us a little bit about that. So you started dance, you started with ballet?
No, I started with hip hop.
Hip hop was your first
So hip hop was
style?
my first style.
How come hip hop? Why did you start with hip hop?
I thought it was just cool.
Yeah?
I just was like, I want to do something cool, and for me, hip hop was that. And also, I think at the time, my sisters did do a hip hop performance, so it was
Okay.
one of those like, my sisters are so cool.
Yeah.
I want to be that cool, so I'm gonna do that style.
What's funny is when I was about 13 or something, and I was looking at what, or maybe even slightly younger, when I first moved to Sweden, maybe 11 or 12, my dad wanted to get me into some form of activities and
Yeah.
hobbies and stuff. I despised him at the time for it, but I'm actually very, very grateful. But interesting, one of the first activities that I did was breakdance.
Oh really?
Yeah. I didn't stick with it for very long. But yeah, that was one of the first things I did.
It's a tough one actually to do breakdance, I have to say, because you're a lot on the floor. You have to hold your own body weight, and you do a lot of like.
Did you ever do any breakdance?
We did, but not like, you do it once in a while in a class. You have a teacher who likes showing you the basics of breakdance,
Right.
but never really full on like dive into it.
Okay.
Um,
So what were the hip hop classes like? So I remember you also said you started once, twice a week, and then it ended up very
Almost
quickly
every day,
becoming every day. And was it hip hop every day, or did you add then different styles, or how was that process for you?
it started out with hip hop, and hip hop has so many genres. So I think it was like a general hip hop. So whoever was the teacher just showed their style of hip hop. And then when I picked out that I just really enjoyed going to dance classes, I think I increased the hip hop, but I then quickly realized, and I think it's had to do with having a crush on one of my dance teachers.
Oh, one of your
yes.
teachers!
Yeah,
No one
yeah.
knew about this on one of the teachers!
Was then like a modern jazz. So
Okay.
like
And that's actually one of the ones that you
jazz
actually teach now as
contemporary,
well, right?
something like that. Yes.
So that's one of those that you ended up
Yeah.
sticking with.
And so those styles, I've never gotten to ballet until I had to do my education. So I've
Right.
never willingly chose to go to ballet class myself.
Okay.
I always just did the styles I want to do with hip hop, contemporary, and modern jazz-ish kind of.
Were you ever recommended to
Yeah.
do ballet? And okay, and so what were people saying, and what was your justification? Why did you choose not to?
Well, so when I was in Stuttgart and I was when I was a teenager and I was able to choose my own classes, I was like, well, I'm going to do the ones I want to do. So, but then when I had to, when I applied to be a dance education for 18 months, they told me I have to have technique, so I have to have ballet.
Did you need to have that before going to the school, or you needed to just have it as part of the program?
So they accepted me without saying you have to have it, but they said to me, well, it's a year until you're going to come to us. So within that year, because I went to Canada for a year.
Right.
So within that year that I was waiting to go and start that school, they said use that year to at least do some ballet training, basically, so you can catch up on.
And that program, that was like a college program?
It was an academy, so dance education academy. Or do you mean the one in Canada?
No, the dance
Yeah,
one.
that was an education. Like it wasn't. I don't know if you would call it a college. I don't know the differentiations of.
But it wasn't like high school, or it wasn't.
No.
It was you'd graduated high school, which you did a year
Yeah.
in Canada, and when you came back, so you were 17, 18?
I was 18. Yeah.
18, yeah. So it's so yeah, okay. So
Yeah.
it was a diploma.
Yeah. Yes, a diploma.
Diploma
Yes, you're right.
program.
A diploma.
Okay.
So it was that, and so they said, okay, well, you're going to start with us within a year. So within that year, please train ballet. So you have some sort of technique.
So then, how did you get into the ballet, and then how did you find that experience? Like, did you find that did help, or did you find that you felt forced into it? Did you feel like then you were like pushing against it? Like, how was that then for you? And was that in Canada then?
Yeah, so the ballet training I started in Canada, so I wasn't doing it in my school. So it was completely new environment, new teachers, new people. I did feel a little bit, like I didn't enjoy it as much, but I also just, I think I struggle with with not discipline, but like
The formality?
the formality of it. Yes, I think that's what it is. I struggled with the formality of it, and that it was just so quickly you knew if you did something right or wrong, because there's a way very, how it should look, and if you don't look like,
it's almost like math. There is one answer.
Yeah. But the more and more I did it, the more I got better at it. The more I enjoyed it, because it is a beautiful style, and the technique is so helpful in all other genres. So learning that proper technique is helpful everywhere. So the more I liked it, and the more I enjoyed it, and it also had to do with teachers. Like, if the teachers were willing to be patient with me, then I was able to enjoy it more, and stuff like that. But I had to force myself a little bit.
I mean, I think that's the case with anything that you learn, right? If you have a good teacher that's willing to kind of work with you in the way that you work, in an equitable way rather than an equal way, and isn't trying to just force their way on you, and is trying to figure out and guide you and support you, I think that makes anything more fun and more interesting.
Yeah, that's how I teach now as well, like, because I realized the more helpful tools my teacher gave me, and the more they're trying to figure out how I would understand certain ways that I clearly can't adapt, and they change in their wording or the way they explain things, I was able then to get it. And so for me, it's that when I teach, I do that to my students. It's like, okay, you're clearly not understanding exactly what I'm saying, so let me see if I can find a different way to understand it, of what you need to be able to get what needs to be happening, like in the correction and stuff like that.
Do you find that has helped you when directing?
Oh yeah, I've learned through teaching and through, teaching dance, but because I've not taught any other, like producing or any other thing. I just taught teaching dance as being a teacher. So through that, you're right, like it did help me, because what it does, it makes me go to the student and be like, okay, what it is that you need so you can understand it, rather than me giving you the tool I use to understand it. So then it makes me go put away my ego and be like, okay, what is it that you need so that you understand that you should hold it this way, or that you can actually hold it this way, or whatever.
What about when... So I mean, I know that you... When you went from dance and into the film world, some of the first kind of jobs that you had were choreographing music videos and musicals and things. What would you say is the difference or the similarities between being a performer yourself on stage or in front of the camera, to being a teacher, teaching somebody how to do it, choreographing somebody else, and directing somebody else? Because those are the kind of four things that you do around, I mean, the topic of dance, but then also then that brought you into film. What would you say are the similarities, the differences, the various challenges? What helps each other? What's your process? Does that make sense?
In directing specifically, or
no? Well, with dance, and because I know that you went from learning, you became a performer first, and then from performer you started teaching and then teaching to choreographing, and from choreographing into directing, and your films primarily have featured dance. So I'm just curious as to what those different roles, what the similarities and differences and the various challenges are that you found in your process with those different roles within the same topic, as it were.
So going to just being a performer, I think for me that was nice to do, because what it helped me do, and for me personally as well, was it pushed me out of comfort zones, because you have to learn a different style from a different teacher, something that might not be familiar to you, but you have to adapt to yourself, and then you have to perform it. So then it's one of those where you are then in this excitement but nervous state on stage where you just, I don't know, you just kind of have to, like, I don't know how to explain it. It's very interesting. Yeah, I don't know. But
Okay, so I picked up there. So you said, like, let's just focus on the performance side. So we started off. You were talking about creativity and being creative, and when you started off performing someone else's piece, or their style, did you feel that you were able to express yourself creatively, or do you, like, and what made you then make the transition from being a performer to then being a teacher to then being a choreographer to then being a director? What was it that drew you to, because ultimately that's the direction you've gone, and you do far less performing now, almost no performing.
Yeah.
So what was the journey to make the decision from being a performer to going through and transitioning to these other roles?
I think for me that was the internal drive and want to create something, like that thing of, like, not necessarily having the control over something, but mainly just that want of, like, oh, it could look like this, what about like this, and yeah, and I think that's kind of what made me want to do a lot more choreography. Like when I was at the company that I was working with in Berlin, very small, so lovely people, good friends of mine, and we had one of our main women, Kati, who was the creator of this company, but she was willing to also bring one of us dancers in to choreograph something, and I was mainly performing. But then there were times where she was like, let's do a duet together, or do you want to do a... And that's when I was like having a lot of fun, because you're in the room together, you're brainstorming, you're going for a common goal, and you're like, oh, what about this, rather than just being taught, this is how it is. And if you don't like it, you can't change it.
Was that the first time you got the opportunity to choreograph and create? Was that your first entry into it, or?
No, I did bits before. So through the education I did, we were we were welcomed to do a lot of pieces ourselves.
Okay.
So there were a lot of opportunities to have a lot of stage shows which they organized, where they always said, like, you're more than welcome to create pieces that you would like to show, either, perform in or just choreograph, and you just are the choreographer. And that's what I did most of the time. I most of the time try to create something, either duet with a friend or the whole group piece, which always was something I always loved doing. It always came so natural to me in that sense. So I kind of, even though I enjoy the performance part and I enjoy and love the thrill of being on stage, I just also enjoy the bit of creating something so out of my own league as well, because I can't do a lot of things that you can do in dance.
Right.
But I love having people who can do these things, and I can make them do these things.
So you see this vision in your head.
Yeah.
And I can relate to that with my music, is how I started, and where I can hear the music in my head. And similar to you with not being classically trained in ballet, I never learned how to read music and was never classically trained. I was self-taught and I learned basic things, but I could always hear music and pieces in my head, and the way I wrote my songs was I could see the music video and the film in my head, and then I would hear the music on top of that, and which is why I created a lot of music videos for our songs. And then I would surround myself with musicians who were far more talented and skilled and better trained than myself, and then I would communicate what it was that I would hear, and it wasn't necessarily always technically correct. Yeah, it wouldn't always follow the correct beat. I would go a lot by feeling, and I would just go, yeah, but this feels right, and this is what I hear in my head, and this is where I think it would move, and this is where the beat would go for me, you know, and I think that's what created our unique sound, and you know, you have some people who you could collaborate well with, and some people that you couldn't, and once I found the people that I could collaborate well with and that could understand my way of thinking, we were able to create some really interesting work and some interesting memories and experiences. Do you find that do you find that you had the same? So you mentioned this company, and you mentioned Katy, and you mentioned some people. Do you find that? How do you find collaborating? Like collaboration for you? How's that for you?
I enjoy collaborating. I always find it a lot more fun to collaborate, because a lot of the times, especially in producing, you are, well, at least from what I've been doing so far, I was a lot of the times the only producer, and like hands-on producer. And it's very lonely, and I just don't like that. And I always like having someone next to me who's like, okay, let's look at this together, let's look at the problem together, or let's look at this piece together we want to create. I do also enjoy doing things on my own, like I'm not only needing to collaborate, but I do find it a lot more rewarding, because you get that shared excitement, you can share that, and that's why that's why I kind of really love directing, because you get to collaborate with all your HODs, with all your heads of departments, and they come in with their experience and their knowledge of their department, and you just come with some sort of idea, and then they're like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that, I can do that, I can do that, like, yeah. So it's like kind of like the same thing with choreographing together. I always kind of did that, funnily enough, with most of my pieces when I was in the education, while I was always doing it with one friend or the other. I think I barely choreographed on my own. For the stage pieces, of course, we had.
I mean, I guess that makes sense, because you need to also. I guess it's you want to see somebody doing the thing that you're trying to choreograph in your head. It's hard to come up with the idea in your head and then see it externally, I guess. So that makes sense. But you started touching upon directing. I'd like to talk a little bit about the film, The Red Hair Tie. Yeah. And so that was your. I mean, you'd done some small projects and stuff in school, but that was your proper first directorial debut as a proper project. And of course, it has dance, and you choreographed it, you directed it, you wrote it, you produced it, you full on Tommy Wiseau'd it.
I did everything.
You didn't edit. You did it. You had a great team.
I did do my rough cut though.
Did you?
I did do my rough cut.
So you really Tommy Wiseau'd it. But so let's talk a little bit about the process of how did that idea come about? How was that process, putting your team together, coming up with the choreography, coming up with the people, coming up with the idea, and how was your experience as a first-time director creating that project? And talk a little bit about that.
So the way it came about was university. So we had to write a short film.
And it was your final grad film, so you'd already done, what, 2 or 3 years?
No, it wasn't the final grad film.
It wasn't your final grad film?
It was my very, very first. So it was...
your final film for the first year?
Kind of. Halfway. So
right.
It was meant to be the first 6 months of your university, but because COVID hit, we couldn't film it.
Right.
So they told us, well, you can go off and film it independently now with our support, but it's not going to be a part of your curriculum anymore.
Okay.
So then I went away and was like, well, I want to do this. Yeah. So I pulled it together right before that Christmas of 2020.
Yeah.
And so it was written for university, or for one of the courses I did.
But then ended up being...
And it was then meant to be the one that I was meant to shoot for another curriculum in university, but we couldn't because of COVID. And then, but I was like, I really want to do this. So in a way, kind of, one thing, thinking about it now, it's kind of nice COVID hit, mainly because I had to swap my DOP, my cinematographer.
Okay.
And not that I didn't want to work with my first cinematographer. I would have loved to work with him, but at the time, because of COVID, he went home, so he couldn't come back. So I chose to do it with now my best friend Chantal. So,
Right.
and it was her first time being a cinematographer. So it was both of our first times to do the things that we want to do in the industry.
Right.
And it was such a nice thing to can share that with someone like such good friend with, and we both keep talking about saying that was one of our best experience on set, being in those two roles.
What was it that made it such a good experience?
It was a tiny shoot, so I think we shot 2 days maybe.
Okay.
It was
and it's
right
about a 10-minute film?
Yes, I think.
Just under.
Yes, just under.
Yeah.
It was 2 days. It was right when Christmas
about this sort of time.
Holiday happened from university, so where everyone was kind of heading off, but their school was still open.
Yeah.
So I used that slot, was like, oh, I want to do it, so it's quiet in the university, and it was kind of nice. So then I just try to pull it together with people that, all my friends that I then gained through the university. Was like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Do you want to be on it? And then just kind of try to pull it together, because I was like, I want to film this. And through that, it just on set, it was
Did you already have the idea for the film at that point? Did you already have the script and the concept and the dance?
So script was all done.
So how's that process? So start from the beginning, like from idea to script to choreography. Like, how did you come up with the idea?
So the idea was, again, I mean, it was part of our university course, but I don't know how the idea came along, to be perfect. Like, I don't know what was the spark of it. It was just this thing of like, we're learning short form. How do you write a short script? How do you make a short film contain and not be just a scene that doesn't have a beginning and ending, one of those where people can lead the story and be like, they're concluded in that sense. And
why don't you tell people what it's about? Because I mean, people haven't seen it yet, because this is what this whole thing is about. It's leading up to the premiere and on Christmas Eve, right? So we've mentioned it's a film about dance and a dancer, and there's connection to you. So why don't you tell people a little bit about what is the film? What is it about?
So it's about a young dancer who is wanting to has a dream to be a professional dancer, and she is going to a very big audition for her, which is a company that she always wanted to go to or be a part of. And she shows up to this audition and realizes she just doesn't fit in. In terms of like clothes, so there's like bits and bobs that we try to figure out, how does she not fit in. It's the clothes. She's very nervous. Everyone around her who is in the room are very judgmental or different looking and different clothes on, and it just defeats her not like, it doesn't feel it just makes it more nervous for her. So she then still goes ahead. She's still trying to push through it in that sense, but then suddenly someone comes into the room that she feels like, not that she knows that person, but it's more like, oh, she seems very interested and confident, but also looks different, but she's owning it, and that confident thing that she's missing. Throughout the audition, which is the main part of the film, she struggles a lot to pick up the choreography because it's very quick and new things and and then through that also other people still like chatting about her, laughing.
Don't give away the film
No,
now.
I won't. But it's like one of those where she's going through a tough time, and then and you see at the end how she's going to get over that.
Sure. So it's about this girl who has this big audition and doesn't fit in, and how she deals with that experience. And I remember this story that you told me once of your first big audition, and
God, yeah.
and that to me seems like that's a big inspiration.
Oh yeah, I mean the funny thing was as well when I came up with the story, it was also about figuring out how to hook audience and what are the twists and
Right.
back and forth and whatsoever. And I kind of gotten to this idea that I to the red hair tie, but then after the fact I've written the script. I realized I had an experience like this. I didn't actually base that script, like it was like I think it was a subconscious thing.
Why don't you tell people about that? Because it's such a funny story. When you told me, I was like, it seems so absurd. It makes sense that you brought that up.
It was one of those where I'm like thinking about it and I'm like, how delusional.
Well, sometimes you got to be a bit delusional to kind of push through, right?
So it was while I was in my education for dancing, and
back in Stuttgart in south of Germany.
And during that time, I saw online that this very, very famous dance company in the Netherlands is called I've forgotten the name now. Of the education.
Anyway,
of that company.
A big dance company.
A big company
that is famous
I've seen in Stuttgart perform, and I was so amazed by them.
Yeah.
They have a style of like ballet classical with contemporary.
Okay.
So it's exactly was like my street. And so I saw they had an audition, so I applied. But at the time, I didn't know how auditions work.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, I applied so I can go.
Right, so you hadn't received a confirmation letter or an invitation?
I hadn't received a invitation. I didn't know that you have to get an invitation.
Right.
I didn't know there was a pre-round.
Oh, okay, here's an audition for this thing. It's on that day at that time. I've sent my application, so they know I'm turning. I'm just going to rock up.
I'm just going to rock up.
Yeah.
So I did.
And it's in the Netherlands, so you travelled
I traveled
Germany to
Den Haag. It was. A friend of my sister at the time lived there, so I slept at hers.
Right.
The night before the audition, I didn't sleep.
Yeah.
I did not sleep. I was nervous, so nervous. So I showed up. They were like collecting everyone in a room, and then they're like saying the names because then you get a number. And no, my name was not selected. So I was very confused. I was like, oh, you guys didn't. I signed up for it, and you guys didn't. Send me. They were like, oh, what's your name? So then they were around. I was like. So they couldn't find me, and then they were like, well, anyway, you're here, so here you go. So they wrote me in to do the audition. So then I was the last group, but then everyone was in this humongous room where they collected the groups and everyone could warm up and change and all that stuff. And I was sitting in there just looking into the room and just noticing that I'm in the wrong place.
Oh, God.
Everyone was high-end trained ballerinos. And remember, I've just started my ballet training.
Oh.
Like a year or two before.
Yeah.
And I'm not nearly as good as anyone of those.
Right.
I was so nervous. I had a little of a nervous breakdown, so I called, funny enough, it was very sweet, my brother and I had a chat, and he was like motivating me to go and do it.
Just give it a try, shoot your shot. You're there.
So then I kind of was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to get this. This is going to be a laugh.
Right.
I went in a room, which was a ballet class first, so before they do any contemporary moves like that. Because I think if it would have been a contemporary class, I don't know, I maybe could have pulled something, at least not made a big fool of myself, like I did when I did that ballet class. But it was
specifically the classical ballet, which was what you'd not done.
Hardcore, showing once, only giving you terms, and just having to know what it is straight away, because it was like a half an hour class, like it was so
Black Swan style, like, okay, so and here we go, boom, 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 go.
So I was like, immediately when I got to the room, okay, this is gonna be
a train wreck.
It's gonna be horrible. So I just accepted the fact that I'm gonna be completely making a fool out of myself.
Yeah.
I did the class. We did a lot of cross the floor as well. I just ended up not doing certain cross the floors because I was like, I don't know how to do these things.
Right.
And I was just laughing at myself. I was like, you know what? In a way, I kind of was like, I did it. I did something. I did a fool out of myself. I don't feel bad about it, like in a way, like I didn't feel like I wasn't punishing myself after, like being like, oh, how dumb could you be? More like, okay, this was kind of stupid of me. I didn't realize
Bucket
how it
list
would
check.
work.
Got this
Kinda.
experience now.
And
Okay.
then I just left because I knew they're not going to call me back. Like,
Sure.
I knew they were not going to be like, oh, you know, my number, whatever. I just left the room. I was like, you know what, that was just, it was an experience. Didn't feel bad about it at all. But then I realized that, and then through that I realized, okay, I just have no idea how this world works.
Yeah.
And through that experience,
What did you do after? Did you then do some more research? Because this is before you even then moved to Berlin to start pursuing your career. So did you then learn from that experience, and did you do more research, or then, you know, what did you do after that?
I don't think I did more research. I just, through that experience, I just realized how it should be, and I'm like, well, if you don't get an invitation, don't go.
Sure.
You know, so I also just really was so, like, now actually thinking about it, all my dance friends who were in the same education, I wonder what they were thinking about me, because I told them all, and they were all way better than me in ballet class. So I was just wondering what they were thinking of me. Anyway, because they could have probably done it, like, in a way, but they didn't, you know, audition or do that stuff. Anyway, it was an experience, and I love that I kind of did it, but I also just, yeah, I didn't research after. I didn't really go deeper into how it should work. I just kind of through that experience, okay, this is how it works. Like, you clearly can't just show up to an audition if you don't.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, clearly the universe was giving you the experience, because then that has subconsciously become the basis for the red hair tie, and gave you, you know, the first standpoint for your film, and, you know, and then this feature film that you're kind of developing, you know, the kind of, we'll talk a little bit more about that, I think episode 4, this is episode 2, so I'll talk a bit more about that later, but, you know, that experience and that journey kind of ties into that idea. So, okay, so you started writing the film as a school project, you then, COVID hit, you were then told to go and, you know, if you want to make it, just do it outside of school.
Yeah.
You lost your original team. You built a new team. Okay, so you've got your team. You've got your script. You've got your people. Like, how did you go about finding people? How did you come up with the choreographies that you wanted to do? You had the idea. You knew what you wanted to do. You knew you wanted to have people, you know, some dancers that have this specific look and this style, and then you want your other main actor to be someone different. How was the casting process? How was the choreography process? And how was actually then pulling the project together once you were at that stage? What was that experience like?
It was a good experience. I think it went kind of smoothly, I think. Like, I had so I used, most of my people that helped me do this was all from university, so.
The performers as well?
No, so they were not. So all of the people who helped me
Behind
make
the
it
camera.
behind the camera.
Right.
The dancing, I used the wonderful platform Mandy, and was like doing a short film auditions. Looked at people's show reels and just kind of invited the people that I liked. I mainly looked at people of dance, the way they dance, rather than the way they act. So I chose my main character. She's not an actor, so she was also a bit nervous about that. But I also had only one dialogue scene in it, which is not in this movie anymore, so okay. I cut that out. It just didn't work.
There's no dialogue at all in the movie. It's all shown through physical action.
It just didn't work. Yeah,
right.
It didn't work. It didn't feel right. I filmed all these scenes, but it just didn't feel right in the edit.
How was that for you to go, oh, I've written and filmed this scene, it's like this killing your darlings. How was that process, and how did you come to the decision and the acceptance of going, no, this doesn't work? Was it your decision? Was it the people that you were editing with? Like, how did you come to that decision, and how was it to let go of that scene? And
it was quite easy, I have to say, because I didn't like the way it was spoken. Not that the two girls were any bad in that sense. It just didn't feel natural. So I was very easily convinced I can't use it in that sense. I think it's gonna kind of pull people out of it. So for me, it felt easy to cut out those things, but also I think it was one of those things where when I then brought in my now editor that I'm going to use for everything, Guya, she helped me clean up the issues with that. So because I was like, well, you know, it is a dialogue scene, wouldn't I need it? But it was just, we then were like brainstorming of like, well, how can you, how else can we tell the story with the footage that we have? And it was very quickly was like, okay, there's an element of that. The physical is showing so much already that we just don't need that dialogue, that we can just do it with the music.
Yeah.
And so then that's how that whole piece was just sound designed by someone, where basically first half of the music is mainly sound design, and the second half is completely composed to the cut. So I edited through a song that I really loved, but I couldn't get the rights to. So I was trying to get the rights to it.
Okay.
But I couldn't. And then I went to my composer that I used for my other short film, was like, I really want this kind of sort of style. I know it's not so fun for a composer to do something similar like was already existing, but he was wonderful and said, like, yes, I can definitely do something. So he did, and then so we had the edit first, and then he made the
nice. That's the process that I've done for all of my films. I've used a guy called Andreas Julström, who's done all of the sound design and music composition for all of my films so far. And same thing, same process, having the picture lock, and then he's created the sound design to the edit and stuff. So that's very cool. It's nice to be able to have that, and have that unique feeling that is created specifically for that project, so that you've got that whole 360 vibe that is connected.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And you've worked with some of the dancers that were in that with then your other projects, To My Dying Mother and things. So that's quite cool that you've kind of stayed in touch, and you've used some of the same people, and that some of the same people have worked on my film, The Gig, as well. You know, Guya, your editor, helped me edit our promos, and worked on that, and edited music video that was connected to the film. And we even had one of the same actors in our films.
Sam.
Yeah, Sam from New Zealand. And it's funny because he was one of my acting students when I was teaching at the film school where you studied. I was teaching acting while you were studying your filmmaking, and he and Amber, two students of mine who were in my film. And it was really funny because when I cast him in my film, I didn't know that he'd been in your film.
No, that's true, yeah.
And then you were like, I recognise him, I know him, he was in my film! And that's so funny that, how small the world is, that we both saw something in the same person and go, oh, we want this person in our film, and he's in both of our films. I think that's quite fun.
I mean, in mine, is just mainly a background help, like background actor.
Yeah, but
because I needed dance background people, and at the time when I did the film, they just opened up that new acting BA.
Yeah.
And so I asked the BAs, the acting BAs, be like, does anyone have any dance experience? Because that means I can have someone for free, because I didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
And he was one of the only ones, and I was like, wow, I need a man. I need people who can't just be a female movie.
No, but I think that's so cool. It's funny how small the world is, and those kind of little connections, considering the connection that's going to happen with this feature film and these things.
Yeah.
It's funny that you've got these kind of little kind of Easter eggs, as it were, that you can kind of look out for. But yeah, we'll talk more about me and my film and such next week in next week's episode in the Gig. It's been really fun, kind of talking and hearing a little bit more, and I've known you for 8 years, and yes, I know some of these stories, but it's still fun and interesting. I'm still learning more bits and getting to hear these things, so I think it's a fun and interesting process getting to kind of do this. This has been our second episode. I don't know, it's been quite fun for me. How's it been for you, talking about yourself? And
It's fun. It's nice to remember things that you not think about in the day-to-day life that much. Like thinking back of how we made this film, thinking back of this audition that I did, which I barely think about. But also the understanding that I was complete with it. Like there was no bad feelings behind it anymore. It was nice, and I'm excited to talk about the gig next week.
Yeah.
Because we were both on it more prominently. You weren't really on the red hair tie.
No, I kind of helped you with advice and more consulting producer, whereas on the gig you were, very much co-producer and AD and help run the floor and stuff. So it'll be interesting to talk about that next week. It's always so awkward finishing these things, but thank you to those who came and listened, and like last week's episode, we've been live here with you guys, and this one will go on to YouTube. Episode 1 is already available on YouTube if you guys want to go back and have a listen and watch, and it's going to be available on Spotify and Apple Music and everywhere else in January. It takes a little while for distribution to come up, but basically my record company and our distribution channel is going to be distributing the podcast. But yeah, thanks for being here live. Thanks for sharing your stories. Thanks for listening on YouTube, and thanks for listening wherever else you're listening to. And we'll do the awkward thing of trying to end this again. Bye, everybody. And end now. Share and finish.